Day.
To the January 20th, 2022 meeting of the Franklin Conservation Commission. Before we begin this evening's agenda, I have an announcement to make, please. Due to concerns regarding the COVID virus, we are conducting a remote and virtual Conservation Commission meeting in an effort to ensure citizen engagement and comply with the open meeting law regulations of the state of Massachusetts. Citizens, whether virtual or in person, will be able to dial into the meeting using the following phone number if you're using a phone, and that is 929-205-6099. Let me repeat that, please. 929-205-6099. And the meeting number you want to place in will be 884-587-1251. That is 884-587-1251. You may also, in addition to using a phone, use a tablet, a computer, and using the Zoom application, simply put in the meeting number 884-587-1251. Now, I can assure anybody, citizens who are on remote and not live, that you will all have opportunities to ask questions. What I do suggest, however, is I will call for questions after the commissioners have had an opportunity to fully examine and comment on the hearing or the project at hand. So with that, I will make now a roll call of commissioners to see who is with us this evening. First is the Vice Chair and Commissioner Jeff Milne.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Milne is present.
Thank you. Commissioner Jeff Livingstone. Let me ask again. Commissioner Jeff Livingstone. He is not with us. Commissioner Patrick Gallagher.
Pat Gallagher, present.
Good evening, Patrick. Commissioner Andrew Mazzucchelli.
Andrew Mazzucchelli, present.
Thank you. Good evening. Commissioner Richard Johnson.
Richard Johnson is present.
Good evening, Richard. I am Chair and Commissioner William Batchelor, so we have quorum, and therefore I would also like to let people know that with us this evening to assist the commissioners is Tyler Pazlaski from the Conservation Office. Good evening, Tyler. And Miss Lenore White, who is with WSI. Good evening, Lenore.
Good evening.
Thank you. All right, without further ado, I will open the public hearings. For the first one is a NOI for Washington Street, map 304, lot 064. Is the applicant or their delegate here, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Rick Goodrow with United Consultants.
Hi, Rick. Did you sign in, Rick?
I did not.
We need you to sign that clipboard, please, just to acknowledge the fact that you are giving testimony. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Rick Goodrow with United Consultants here this evening. Mr. Peter Genta, Mr. Bill Hummel, and Mr. Rick Almeida.
Good
all
evening, gentlemen.
applicants for the proposed project located on Washington Street.
Okay.
So we have been before the commission previously on this application. We had asked for an extension, and we actually refiled the advertisement for the project. And that was based on the applicant obtaining a parcel of land approximately a half acre in size located in this area here, which allowed for a redesign of the project. So we were able to reconfigure the parking and move the parking area further away from the wetland resource areas. And additionally, we were able to eliminate the retaining walls that were proposed along that parking edge with that reconfiguration of the parking. So what we currently have is a plan with a grading scheme, a parking layout, stormwater system, which consists of capture within catch basins, routing through a piping system to 3 underground infiltration areas located in those spots there. Additionally, we're proposing for the installation of an erosion control limit of work line at the toe of the proposed slope to mitigate the impacts of the project on the down gradient wetland. We have a fairly extensive erosion control plan that we've provided the commission. It's been reviewed by your consultants. There is one comment, I believe, on the erosion control plan. And we can certainly go through the comments at the commission's preference. But I would like to point out that we do have some filling of the floodplain, and we've provided for a compensatory flood storage area here. And that is to compensate for the filling in both area and more particularly in volume for what's being proposed to meet the regulations for work within bordering land subject to flooding. There is a comment from your review consultant, Ms. White, with respect to that. And again, how the commission would like to handle the comments, we can go through that. So those are the highlights of the changes that are being proposed as part of this revised plan in this application. We certainly can answer any questions you may have. We have also, as I said, had the opportunity to make revisions to the comments that were received. We also have submitted the design of the slope system from both the GeoWeb company that provides for the slope stabilization for the surface treatment, as well as a letter from the geotechnical engineer that's been brought on board with respect to the slope stability, basically underneath that surface treatment, if you will.
Okay.
So that is part of the record. And as again, as I had mentioned, there were a few comments that Ms. White had made that we've responded to. We can certainly go through those. Thank you.
You're welcome. Since you did mention Lenore White, Lenore, you are with us. Would you care to comment,
Yes.
please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Rick in the sense that we've had several discussions about some aspects of the project, including number one, the erosion control. And I'm satisfied that GeoWeb is going to be protective enough of that wetland that I would be amenable to allowing that. And I also talked to Rick about the compensatory flood storage area. I had some initial concerns about the location, but given the fact that that whole slope is going to be reworked and that mitigation or that compensatory flood storage area is so small, I think it's going to be just fine. And, certainly it would have to be so before there'd be a certificate of compliance issued. And the last comment that I had was that, well, actually, it's a two-phase comment, one being that these revisions represent an improvement to the plan because when the applicant was able to purchase more property to the north,
That
it
half acre,
enabled
right.
them to pull the project back. So, and with that, there was a concern during construction remaining for the slopes, and they've agreed to a weekly inspection of the slopes to make sure they're stable. And last, they are putting quite a bit of impervious area out there, and it does exceed 30%, which is one of the standards in your wetlands bylaw. And after talking to Rick, he has indicated to me that he is amenable to doing some mitigation if the commission so requires that for the additional impervious area. And we talked about maybe installing some bird boxes along that slope, the base of the slope where there'll be no activity. Or I thought maybe, Rick, adding some more trees or shrubs down in that 25 to 50 foot buffer zone. But that's up to the commission. It's a discretionary application for mitigation. But it certainly is something that the commission has the right to ask for. And I think with my discussions with Rick, the applicant and his team are amenable to providing some sort of mitigation out there. So at the end of the day here, I think we have a better project. I'm confident that Rick has addressed all my concerns And with a couple special conditions, I think the project could move forward.
Excellent.
But that's certainly up to the folks, you folks on the commission.
So basically, in a summation, Lenore, you are suggesting with the modifications made and a few simple details that this project can go forward, is that correct?
Yeah, I believe it meets the standards of certainly the Wetlands Protection Act, and if there were to be some mitigation, it would also meet the standards under your wetlands bylaw and regulations.
Very good, thank you. I believe I'd like to poll the commissioners. I know there's one commissioner that has to give testimony, so if I may, gentlemen, lady, let me start with him. Patrick Gallagher, Commissioner. It is
Thanks,
our
Bill.
understanding that you made an inspection of this project?
That's correct. So yesterday, I had an opportunity to meet with the applicant and with Rick and with Lenore at the site to walk through and get a sense visually of how the work is going to be situated on the property. I think, it was very instructive to see it in person. And as with any project, I think it helps to be looking at it in 3 dimensions as opposed to simply seeing the plans that are presented. So a few observations that I wanted to share based on what I saw and what we discussed with the applicant and Ms. White and Mr. Gaudreau. So this project involves a significant amount of grading, it appears. It's a large site. And so that proposed grading, and Rick, please correct me if there's anything that I'm mistaking here, but it seems like that proposed grading is going to result in 2 significant sloped areas on the site, one of which is within the buffer zone, one of which is not within the buffer zone and not subject to our jurisdiction, but of interest and to the project nonetheless. The one that is not in the buffer zone would separate the project from several residences that are located upslope of the project site. And so one of my concerns in looking at, particularly the sloped area that will be within the buffer zone is just ensuring the stability of the slope. Looking at the site, there's a lot of tree coverage. A lot of trees will have to be removed. It seems like the bulk of the trees that will be removed are probably not in the buffer zone, but certainly affect the ecosystem. So the applicant has come forward, and Rick maybe can speak a little bit further to this, with this GeoWeb system that is designed to be able to reinforce slopes like this one. And I think, from hearing an explanation of how it works, I'm comfortable, as long as Lenore is as well, that it'll be adequate to ensure the stability of that slope that'll result in the buffer zone. But given the number of trees that are coming down, I would be in favor of mitigation in the form of new trees being planted where appropriate and where they can be on the site. I think I know that some of the plantings that the applicant is discussing are more in the way of screening between the residences and the project. But I think, beyond plantings that are for screening purposes, I think it would be beneficial, where feasible, to have more trees planted to replace what will be taken down. And also just wanted to agree, I think adding that additional lot certainly makes a big difference to the project, and seeing it in person and how much space is added, I understand, that there's a significant decrease in what the impervious was previously planned versus what it would be now.
Rick?
So that's pretty much all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Excuse me for 1 second. Rick, do you want to comment on what was just said and suggested, please?
Sure. So, as Commissioner Gallagher had mentioned, there are two areas, first being located here to the east of the buildings that is not in the jurisdictional area, and I think the more area more of concern to the commission is the slope located in this area here, which is in fact within the buffer zone. So what we've proposed is a GeoWeb system. I'm not sure if Mr. Everhart from GeoWeb is actually on Zoom here. I'm not able to see if he's on there. Tyler, could you tell me if
Thank
Mike
you.
Everhart is present?
Yep, he is there.
Okay.
I am present.
Good evening.
Hello.
So I can certainly give you, our perspective of the GeoWeb system, but I think Mike would be much more qualified to enlighten the commission as to the benefits of the GeoWeb system.
Now is your time. We would
Okay.
enjoy listening to the system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. So my name is Mike Everhart. I'm an erosion control and geoproduct stormwater manager for EJ Prescott. I represent and am a certified installer, trainer for Presto Geosystems, which manufactures the GeoWeb system. And the GeoWeb system is a system utilized for steeper slopes to be able to vegetate a slope, where it might be too steep to actually help hold up topsoil on its own. This is a system that allows you to cover a slope, extreme steep slopes, tall slopes, infill it with topsoil, and allow vegetation to get established. And so it is an erosion control measure. It's something that allows vegetation to get established and it gives it the best opportunity for that root structure to get down into the existing soil. What's nice about it as well is it's all perforated. So in rain events, you actually get water moving through it as well, but it's holding the soil component all together and it's confining that material. You can come back and put plantings in it. The cells are pretty decent size, as long as you're not putting in, red pines and large diameter trees. You can put plantings in it as well and plant smaller type dogwoods and different things like that.
So if I understand what you're saying, and I thank you for giving us a visual of how that works, this system will take the plantings, certain types of plantings, to help stabilize along with this system any sloping. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, it will.
Okay.
You just don't want to get large diameter trees in there that would actually grow larger than the cells themselves. So it's the smaller diameter trees, shrubbery, and so on.
Okay. It appears, at least, and again, we have to ask other commissioners, and then, of course, we have opportunities for the public to commit, but to the chair, from the testimony that I've heard, and certainly from recommendations from both Ms. White and Commissioner Gallagher, it appears that at least I would be in favor of a geosystem, however, with plantings, including necessary trees and shrubs, all within the spectrum of those that are approved, which the commission office through Tyler or through Brian can provide you with. I think probably would be wise to mandate that. Jeff, how do you feel about
I
that?
definitely feel very strong about that, as something that we want to do. I'm just kind of questioning at this point how we would manage that expectation.
Well, Lenore has recommended, by the way, if you look at this, that the work is going to be completed in phases. So we certainly can at least, at some point, validate whether or not that's taking place,
Right.
I would think.
That's right. That's
Do we have
exactly right.
a commitment to a specific number of trees or?
Well, we
or-
can discuss that, but right now, are you in favor of the plantings?
I am. I think I see a little more detail around that, but conceptually, I'm very much in favor of it.
Okay, how about you, Andrew?
I am in favor of the plantings, and I think, like you said, Bill, with regard to the plantings being sort of in phases, I think that's a good use of the sort of, just to be able to.
It's additional to the stabilization of that area.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly this system is impressive, and from what I've read and see, it works, but I'm still in favor of having natural stabilization.
Absolutely.
As well as the artificial.
As am I.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes,
If I may, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to point out that we do have a proposal to cover that entire area with a conservation and wildlife mix, seed mix for stabilization. So it was to be planted. Now, we're not opposed to some intermixing of
Right.
some shrubs and trees.
and I
but-
understand that, but I want to make sure the commissioners are all in favor. I mean, it looks like a terrific system, but nature also creates a terrific system. And I think in concert with what you're trying to do, it would just benefit everyone. And it's a small, when you look at the scope of the project, it's really a small task.
Yeah, no, I just wanted you to understand that we weren't leaving
Absolutely.
bare soil.
Did do
We were
that, sir.
seeding it.
Yes, good point.
Plantings intermixed within that is fine.
Right.
We do have some screening plantings on the upper side, so some wildlife plantings.
Okay.
You
Richard
have
Jo,
some photos of actual install of the product.
I'm sorry?
We have some photos we can show of the actual install of the product before and after.
That would-
Yeah, local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard Johnson, you have a question?
No, I'm in favor of the plantings on there too. Although Pat was talking about trees, and is there some idea of where the trees could go? Evidently, it's
Yeah,
can't go in these.
there are spec trees that can be placed in there, and they're aware of that, would not create a significant problem to the geosystem itself. Obviously, there's certain dimensional difficulties once you get beyond a size.
So the space of the geocells are approximately 11 to 12 inches in an
Okay.
opening. So any tree, obviously we have to be cognizant of the root ball size.
Correct.
We can't have a 2-foot root ball to try and fit it through
Right.
that. But
Well, any planting, never mind
smaller-
trees.
Correct, smaller type plantings, trees, smaller trees, we could plant smaller trees and
Yes, you
allow
can.
them to grow.
Right.
We just can't put in a
But
10-foot
it'll
tree
go
with a
under
large root ball.
and not out.
Correct, we need to be able to get it through the cell. So the root ball
Exactly.
has to be, 10 inches or smaller or so.
And that root growth will help to stabilize along with the geosystem. No, yeah, that's self-explanatory. You can't put a 3-foot ball in
Right.
a 12-foot,
Right.
12-inch
Yes.
area.
I wanted to, but Mike Everhart told me we couldn't. So, no, we've had a lot of back and forth with them since August on this system. And when the planning board had some concerns about screen plantings, we went back to them and got some guidance from them as to how we could accomplish this, and they were very helpful.
Okay. Patrick, does that kind of answer your concerns?
It does, and the only thing I would add to that is, in addition to the slope areas, if there are other parts of the site that it would be feasible to have some additional plantings, I think that would be beneficial.
Yeah, it would be recommended, but outside of our, as you know, domain, it's kind of hard for the commission to say, yeah, you got to do that because it's outside the area. It would
That's
be-
right. I think,
it would
we
be
can
the smart thing to
obviously,
do. Because
Right.
this whole project will be monitored, and
right, and I think as a practical matter, it's in the applicant's interest that
absolutely.
the plantings are going to provide a great deal of stability to the site. And that's something that, they need independent of anything we're asking for. So,
The wisdom of this whole conversation is, here's the finish line, you're a foot from it. So if we can get a little bit of accommodation here, I think
Well, I
this
think-
will all go well.
I think we're there, right? We're hearing what the commission said. I don't,
I'm Bill Honnold. Really, a lot of everything we've discussed here.
Did you sign in?
Oh, yes, I did.
Thank you.
It has added to our project as well. That that property that we were able to aspartame down the end. It helped us in our design as well. We don't want to be mowing grass. Trees are better, shrubs are better. Where we can fit them in the slopes is a good idea. We want it dressed up. We're going to be living there ourselves. We're occupying part of the building, and we're going to have to maintain it. So we want, you know, the trees and things like that stabilized. We want to be cutting grass on slopes and things like that. A little wildflower mix. Make it nice to be.
Well, and I think,
live there.
as chair, I do want to mention that you've been more than cooperative in terms of this project, understanding the needs and actually accommodating those by putting on the half acre, by, you know, going through the process of saying, do we do 2, do we do 3, how does that work? So you certainly have gone the extra mile, in my opinion, to get to this point. And like I said, here's the finish line, so.
And listening to you guys has helped us as well. We've got some good results because of the discussions we've had.
Right.
On our part too. In a lot of ways.
Okay.
So we appreciate it.
Thank you. Lenore, are you comfortable with what we're suggesting here?
Yes, I think to reiterate, we have some plantings, as Rick had pointed out, the seeding. And I think what we're maybe leaning towards is adding trees and or shrubs either into that geo web where we can do that, or I think where maybe Patrick, where you were going was to add additional trees within the buffer zone. The 25 to 50 foot buffer zone where there's no activity proposed, but the planting within that buffer zone might offer some mitigation in lieu of the percentage of impervious cover that will occur at the, once the project has been finalized. So I think there's 2 components here. One is to augment the geo web with either shrubs or trees or a mixture, and 2, add some additional trees and or shrubs down into the buffer zone where where there's some, it's not really bare spots down there, but maybe to just fill in some areas with some additional trees and shrubs to enhance the overall protection of that area, provide greater wildlife habitat value, and that sort of thing. So maybe we could wrap this up by having a condition for both of those things, and then having the applicant pull together a plan that, that addresses those 2, and then the commission having the opportunity to, thumbs up or thumbs down on that plan. So I don't know, that's one way to handle it. The other way to handle it maybe would be to get a plan beforehand and, continue the hearing. But I think that's really up to you folks, how to proceed with those 2 things, assuming that those 2 things are really where we're headed here.
Thank you, Lenore, and that's a good point. We're at a point where I really believe it deserves a vote, and, we're talking about a minor process.
Yes.
When I look at the scope of this project, we're talking about plantings on, in a buffer zone and the stabilization of banks, and you've gone the extra mile with the geo system, which appears to be terrific. So I think we can work that in without being, Jeff, Commissioner Milne said, well, how many? It's really going to be dependent on how that lays out, and I've got to let you handle that as we go in phases, because it's going to be inspected.
There's things that are happening too in that lower slope of that buffer zone.
Yes.
Damaged trees that are fractured trees, destroyed trees, and we're gonna be taking out healthy trees. We could even be moving those into that area. as we go
Understand.
through the project. We're gonna be there a year and a half building this. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's not, this isn't going to be a couple months. This has got some distance on it, right. Excellent
Yeah.
point. Let me just check with the commissioners again to make sure that we have covered the bases. Commissioner Milne?
I'm good, we still have the public hearing to go through.
Yeah, we'll go once
But
we're satisfied.
We're satisfied.
I am satisfied.
Mazzucchelli, okay. Commissioner Gallagher?
I'm in good shape.
Excellent.
And there's just, a comment in the chat to make sure that everyone's speaking into the microphone if you're testifying.
Right,
In person.
thank you for your extra work on this project. It's appreciated. Commissioner Johnson, you satisfied with where we are?
Yes, I am.
Very good, and the chair is satisfied. So therefore, it's time to ask the public if they have questions on this project while we have everybody together. I see a hand. Yes. Would you please sign in and go to the microphone? That's okay. That's good. It's all good. Is that microphone up?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Very good.
Hi, working?
Working? Yes.
Cool.
Well, would you
Karen-
identify yourself?
Yep, Karen Miller.
Hi, Karen.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, 246 Washington Street.
Yes.
Couple questions. I had no idea what GeoWeb system is. It was sitting up on the screen when I first walked in, wrote it down, hadn't seen anything about it, right? So pardon my questions.
You may look, this is a matter of record now, so you're entitled to see it.
Yeah, interesting.
Yes, it is. I'm familiar with it, so I've heard of it. I'm not familiar with actually the implementation of it, but I have heard of it. And it does work.
So through the commissioner, question on that GeoWeb system, couple questions on it. How long has that system been around for and been in use for?
It was designed by the Army Corps of Engineers back in the 1930s.
Yes.
Okay,
I'm very familiar with it because I had property where it was implemented by the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers.
and how long is it like good for, right?
Eternity.
The upkeep and everything, it just lasts forever? It lasts
Yes.
forever? Okay.
It's polypropylene product, so I don't think
Yes.
I couldn't hear what he said.
it stays there for
It just stays there.
It's
as
used to stabilize. I actually had acreage, and it was on a spillway from Scantic River, which was at the time under the direction of the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers. I had to have a bridge put on to get on the property, and they used that technique. I lived there for 15 years, and along with some plantings, that worked like a charm.
And so it works on a steep slope?
Oh, yeah, the slope was steep because this was a spillway for a major river.
And this is why you sit on that side and I stand on this side. Question to the commissioner is, this whole area is in the Franklin Water Source Resource District. What does that signify? What does that make it different than if it wasn't? You know, like, do they have to do something different, or, you know, what does that mean?
It's under state and municipal protection, and there are certain responsibilities that we have to make sure that nothing breaks down.
Okay,
It's a very complicated answer that I'm not equipped, Lenore certainly could answer it, but at this point, it has to be germane to the project.
okay. So, in a previous meeting, it was said that this has to have a green belt. A green belt is required for this project?
I'm not familiar with that.
No,
Somebody-
I'm not familiar with that either.
Lenore, are you familiar with that?
No, I'm not. I'm not familiar with that, no.
I'm not either, so I've got to ask somebody if they're familiar with that.
So actually, that was more of a planning issue. So we have this green belt of arborvitae trees providing a screen from the abutting residentially zoned properties.
Okay.
Okay. And so along with the same tree question, on the design up on the board there, there's plantings and there's trees and there's proposed trees that are not on the property, that are on someone else's property. And in addition to that, they're on the property of New England Power Company, National Grid, whatever. National Grid has easements that you can't do plantings on their properties. So I was just curious when I looked at the design, how they were gonna have trees planted within, National Grid doesn't have easements on their own property, but they have easements by the high tension wires.
I'm
How
not
they were
aware of
gonna
the
do the
encroachment.
plantings on someone else's property.
Can someone help me with that?
I'm not sure where she's talking.
I can point it, do you want me to point it to you, my question?
Are you sure? about that?
So, this is property line, right? And this is right away here. You see how you have proposed tree line and, things here. This is National Grid, and then the high tension wires are here, so you can't plant trees and such under high tension wire, under that however many feet it is. But this isn't on your property over here.
That's correct.
Yeah,
So-
if the project doesn't interface with that, we can't comment on it.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
Well, you're talking about planting trees to stop for the erosion and stuff.
only in the banking areas and within the resource area, the buffer zone. That's all we have the authority to do.
That's right.
Okay, so when
Outside
it's
of
fine for them.
jurisdiction, we can't do anything.
Okay, so, that's fine. I was just wondering on their plan why they can propose trees that aren't on their property. And then
There
the,
are no trees.
There are no trees, correct?
Proposed tree line is a demarcation of where the tree clearing limits will be.
Right,
As
the
part of
clearing.
the planning board's
Right.
requirement, not
But
where
it's
we're
not the
proposing
planting.
trees.
We don't have the authority to tell National Grid what they can put in there.
And just for the record, this project is under review by National Grid
Okay.
at this time because we are accessing.
Well,
through their
you're
property,
touching their, right.
And we're under their wires, so they
But
have
that-
Right, so-
this filed, and National Grid's attorney and the applicant's attorney are working through the fine details.
Yeah, that goes through National Grid. That-
right, and so I just wanted to understand that National Grid does not allow plantings within certain distance of their lines, of the
Oh, they
power
do.
lines.
Oh, they do.
So when we're talking,
We have had National Grid in here when they come to clean the lines,
yeah,
and we do ask for stabilization after that, so.
Yep.
It's not like it doesn't occur, but that's their authority, not our authority.
I think that it might be a misunderstanding. That is saying that's the limit of the clearing of trees.
sorry, I can't
Not
hear
pl-
you.
Yeah, that
That-
isn't going to encroach on it.
That's the limit. That's the limit that we can clear up to. We're not planting trees there.
Yeah, the only stabilization we're talking about is the banking.
Yep.
And in
And-
the buffer zone, we have authority up to, well, 50 to, depends, or more feet to stabilize that. Beyond that, we can't. That's beyond our jurisdiction.
So you only have authority up to the buffer zone?
Right. Well, we have authority for the project, but what I'm saying is we can't mandate.
Right.
And just another way of explaining it, if I can. So the way our jurisdiction functions and projects that come before us is if someone wants to do something, if someone wants to build or disrupt the land or take down trees or do any activities that are either within the actual wetland or are within the buffer zones to the wetland, they need our permission in the form of an order of conditions. So if something is not in the wetland or not in the buffer
In the
zone,
zone.
it's not in our jurisdiction.
We don't
And
have the
another-
right or authority to tell them what to do.
So I'll tell you my
and-
confusion. Pardon me, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My confusion is when we stand in front of planning board and someone asks a question about animals and, disrupting all that, they clearly say, that's the conservation you need to talk to.
If it's within the jurisdiction area.
Right.
Outside of that, we have no jurisdiction.
If it was in the jurisdiction of a buffer zone,
If it's with the wetlands or the buffer, correct.
And so-
Otherwise, I mean, where does it stop?
And,
so-
and another point to note as well is that when we hear an application, it's for a specific property. So for example, if a neighboring property is shown on a plan, but the project might not touch that property and the application might not be for that property, there's nothing that we can say or do that would affect that.
Correct.
Right? The only thing that we are asked to review is for this specific property.
Okay.
So if there's
Scope of
work
the-
that's going
Scope
on,
of the specific project.
Yep, understood.
And what it actually touches.
Yep, understood. So although it says on there that they're gonna do tree planting on and Patrick would know what I'm talking about because he went in there, the big slope that goes down into the wetlands, but it might be outside the buffer zone, so it doesn't matter to the conservation, anything
No,
outside the
it's not that
buffer
it
zone.
doesn't matter. We have no
Oh,
jurisdiction.
sorry, I didn't mean it that way. Sorry, I did not mean,
We can't rule on it.
sorry, I should
I mean,
rephrase.
we could care about it.
Right.
And we do,
Sorry.
passionately, all of these commissioners.
Jurisdiction, so.
But we can't say, do this.
Absolutely, sorry, I apologize. So my final question then is, this was brought up in the last meeting, that the 100-foot buffer zone goes right to the edge of the building, right? So that would be an item that you would think to look at, because it goes, that 100-foot buffer zone goes to the edge of the building. And the impervious area, also you'd look at, because it was mentioned the impervious area, 30% or whatever, was outside what was acceptable, or acceptable in that zone. Is that you, or is that a different commission?
Project engineers. Rick, you want to talk to that?
Yeah, so, I can try to. So, the Conservation Commission regulations provide for a threshold that if exceeded, which is 30% of the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone, if that is impervious, and that threshold is exceeded, which in this case it is, we're about 46% impervious within the 50 to 100-foot buffer zone, then the Conservation Commission could require mitigation. And that's what we're talking about with these additional plantings and shrubs that the
Exactly.
commission has. So we would then meet that threshold upon satisfying the commission with that
Satisfaction
mitigation.
is to stabilize.
Correct.
That's all. We can't say, we can't engineer it for them. That's not our responsibility. All we can comment on is what is projected to us in terms of project scope and how it's engineered. We can't all of a sudden say, well, here's our plan, take this. No.
Oh,
can't do
absolutely,
that.
understood, no, understood. So I think my confusion a bit was when we talked too about having two major slopes, and he said one was in the zone and one was out of the zone, right? And so I think the geosystem will be in both slopes.
Yes, we're
And
getting
so-
at what is called an accommodation.
So that's where I got confused. So I was thinking that both geosystems
No,
would be
and I
in
understand that.
your,
We work with this on all projects.
The geosystem. will be
I apologize,
on
I'm
both
like
sides.
not a professional at this.
Yeah. No, the geosystem is proposed for both slopes, both.
Yes.
The one in the buffer zone as well as the slope to the east of the proposed
Okay.
buildings.
So understood, so then the second geosystem that's outside of the,
50
of the
foot.
buffer zone.
Wetland jurisdictional area.
The contracting authority, the managing authority would be planning board then, to make sure that that's up to their code? Who would be the Franklin board that would oversee to ensure?
I would say the planning board is part of their
Okay.
project review. I mean, the
Okay.
planning board's gonna review the entirety of the project.
Right.
No, I understood, thank you, appreciate it very
Yeah.
much, because like I said, you've been there, sometimes they're like saying, it's this board, it's that board, and this or that board saying it's not
No,
us.
we work in concert with one another, and if the planning doesn't stop on this, it doesn't, and this isn't the end point, this is the midpoint, the finish point.
No,
I
but
mean,
For us.
right, obviously, the biggest concern here is to stabilize these slopes, we
Right.
realize that.
And I
mean,
think
they're here, they're very concerned
You've
about
come
that
up
as
with a
well.
very adequate, we rely heavily on, in this case, WSI or Lenore. Her judgment usually is impeccable. Certainly, we've had a Commissioner, Gallagher, who, this is his sweet spot. He's gone out there. I've looked at this enough and read enough and been through it with you, as we all have. You've made terrific strides in making this project workable. I mean, that's where we are today. That's why I want to push this thing through.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're very welcome, Rick. Is there any other questions from the public? Do
I have
do
a
you
question,
Would
sir.
you sign in, please?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I also actually have a question from.
Hold on.
member of
We
the
we have
Zoom call.
plenty, no, go ahead. You go next. Yeah, you got to sign over there. We'll have time for everyone. kindly state your name and where you live, please?
Robert Delaco, 7 Wilson Road.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
How you doing?
Good, thank you.
Just curious, what's the maintenance on that GO? So, you know, 10 years down the line, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna take care of all that maintenance? I mean, I don't even know if there is maintenance.
I can answer to that. I can,
On the slopes,
Okay.
when you put that stuff, what's the maintenance on it?
All right, we have a comment coming up. Go ahead.
I can answer that if you'd like.
Thank
There really isn't any maintenance. The only maintenance will be if you want to mow the grass that's on top there, because you're never going to see that system. It's all going to be under the grass. You have topsoil infilled in those cells. It's vegetated, and you just don't see it. There is no real maintenance.
My personal experience.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I know that
with
you
that,
had it.
With that spillway from, as a result of the major hurricane that came through the area in which we lived through, was that within a very short period of time, a couple of years, you would not know that the U.S. Corps of Army Engineers worked on that at all. It fit in with the landscape. It was impeccably done. And, you know, the 12 to 15 years I lived there, you would have never known.
Well,
And yet that area took spillovers from when there was a lot of water. I mean, we're looking at 6, 8 feet of very quick running water, and that bank never moved.
Okay.
That's
No, I mean-
personal experience from the.
I mean, a lot of the questions she has, it has to come up to the planning board, which we will have Monday.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
I
And
know
that
what
is
you
everyone's
guys,
right.
you guys do what you gotta do. I mean, I'm vice chair of the Franklin Town Council, so I know exactly what you do. You guys already made your decision, you know what's going on. So I appreciate that. But, I mean, Monday night, we got, a lot of these answers have to be filled. And I know that it goes a long way. It keeps going from now and.
Our job is to protect the wetlands.
Right, exactly.
area.
And that's all you guys
That's
have to do.
all we can, I can't tell
That's
you
what I'm
about
trying to
the
explain to
engineering,
people.
whether I like it or not, it doesn't
Right.
matter.
A lot of people come to me, I don't even have we
Yes.
don't even have a question on that. It's all planning board. If it came to the council,
We have to
it wouldn't
stay
get
within
done.
our zone.
But, you know, you just have to do, and people don't understand that, you just have the wetlands to do.
Correct.
And I appreciate that. But that's all I'm gonna say.
Thank you so much. They appreciate it. Good comment. Are there any other questions from the public, please?
I have a question, sir.
Yes, would you identify yourself?
My name is Lon Reisinger. I'm in One Taft Drive. It's right across the street
Yes, sir.
from entrance. So I was wondering about the risk of pollution so this flex space is, according to their description, kind of light industrial processes. So what is the risk of pollution for the wetlands and for drinking water in the area? Like my neighborhood, at least like every house in the neighborhood across the street uses well water.
So, Mr. Chairman, we are within a water resource district of the town of Franklin, which basically means we're in an area of influence to a drinking water well. We're aware that there are private drinking water wells up gradient from us across Washington Street in the vicinity here. So, as the commission's aware, there are stormwater standards, one of which is land uses of higher potential pollutant loads, which we're not proposing to have on this site. We've agreed in principle with that as a condition of an approval through the planning board, that there will be no land uses of higher potential pollutant load allowed on this site.
Okay.
Planning board also has their authority with the zoning bylaw, Water Resource Protection District regulations that prohibit and allow with special permit certain uses to be done within this site. We obviously would have to fall within those zoning requirements.
Within those guidelines, right.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question? It is really a planning board issue.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah. So are there plans is there a plan to enforce those kinds of rules with your future tenants?
Bill Hommel here. I can answer that. Our lease agreement prohibits the use of chemicals or dropping, I mean, you could go to jail for things like that.
Did
It's not
you
gonna.
hear that comment, that all chemicals and what have you, pollutants are forbidden?
They have to be contained properly based
Right.
on OSHA regulations, the environmental
Okay.
laws. It'd be like someone changing their oil in your neighborhood and dropping it in your sewer. You can come and get arrested for that. That wouldn't happen on one of these,
Right.
this situation. And we're on site as well, so we're gonna see all that.
Understand. Does that adequately answer your question, sir?
That does answer my question. I think sometimes people break rules, though. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the public?
There is a raised hand from Mary Lou Costello.
Mary Lou, are you with us? Hello?
She's muted. I do not know if she's going to type a question.
Okay. Perhaps there is no question. Again, I'm going to ask one more time. Are there any questions from the public, please? Okay, there appears not to be any more questions. Let me go through our commissioners again to find out if we're ready to wrap to close the, I'm sorry?
Sorry, she just typed her question. Has there been any traffic study?
Has there been any what?
Traffic study.
Trapping?
Traffic, like cars. And
Oh, traffic studies.
That's planning board.
So, that'll-
Rick,
No, but again, that's a planning board issue.
that's planning board. We don't do traffic studies in conservation, not unless you're talking about ducks or deer or. Yeah, okay. The answer is planning board, please. That's Monday. Okay? Let me poll the commissioners again. Commissioner Johnson, are you ready to take a vote to close the hearing?
Yes, I am.
Mazzucchelli,
I am ready to.
Gallagher,
Ready to go?
Milne.
Jeff Millen, I'm ready to go.
Okay, Bill Batchelor. Therefore, the chair will take a motion to close the public hearing, please.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Millen, I'll give you a motion to close the public hearing on the NOI for Washington Street.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I second that motion.
Second from Commissioner Mazzucchelli. Let's take a vote. Commissioner Gallagher, do you vote to close the hearing?
Pat Gallagher, I vote to close the hearing.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson, do you vote to close the hearing?
Commissioner Johnson votes to close the hearing.
Thank you. Commissioner Milne, do you vote to close?
Jeff Millen votes to close.
Commissioner Mazzucchelli, do you vote to close?
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I vote to close.
Thank you. This is Chairman and Commissioner Batchelor. I vote to close this meeting. The chair is closing the public hearing on the NOI for Washington Street, map 304, lot 046. Okay, we can't take any more testimony since we have closed it. Now I will take a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The order of conditions, do we need to modify that in any way or manner for the additional,
I'm going to mention it in our vote. So I will take a motion to close the hearing and then a motion to approve an order of conditions. I recommend doing so with the following special conditions: 20, 21, 24, 27 through 30, 32, 34, 41, 44, and 51. In addition, the order of conditions will call for plans to be for the work to be completed in phases and the use of plantings and trees to stabilize not only the sloping but the buffer zone. So, I'll take a motion as mentioned to approve.
Mr. Chair, I believe that extra condition about plantings would be special standard condition 19, mitigation planting plan. Does that sound correct?
Would you give me that again?
Special condition 19, I believe, is mitigation planting plan. Is that-
Condition 19?
Condition 19.
Okay. So we're adding special condition 19, so it'll be 19, 20, 21, 24, 27 through 30, 32, 34, 41, 44, and 51. There's a mouthful. I'll take a motion for approval as said.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Millen, I give you a motion to approve the NOI as said.
No, it's order of conditions.
Order of conditions.
What you said.
As said.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I second that motion.
Thank you. Let's take a vote. Commissioner Gallagher.
Pat Gallagher, I vote to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Richard Johnson votes to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Milne.
Jeff Milne votes to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Mazzucchelli.
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I vote to approve.
Thank you. And this is Chair and Commissioner Batchelor. I vote to approve the order of conditions recommended with special conditions 19, 20, 21, 24, 27 through 30, 32, 34, 41, 44, 51, and mention in the order of conditions that plans call for the work to be completed in phases and special plantings. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, commission members, and Ms. White.
Good
Thank
job.
Thank you.
All right.
Very welcome. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Thank you so much, Lenore. You have been marvelous.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Good night.
Bye-bye. All right. That's a big project. We did good.
I know, seriously.
Thank you, by the way, Tyler, for mentioning that.
Sure.
That was very,
Sure thing.
anytime you want to be a commissioner, let me know.
We didn't even get into the videos that we had to install the product.
Oh, you had videos, that's right.
Some videos.
They're still
Well,
available.
we can't do it now
They're on the
because
town website
the
for anyone who
hearing
would
is
like to see.
closed.
They're on the website. I
We-
guess we put them on the town website.
We can't, you can post it if you want. You can do that through Tyler, but we can't look at it because we have formally closed it off.
Okay.
They are.
But Tyler will be able to post if you want that.
They are there for
Yeah,
anyone
sure,
who looks for
that
the
would
agenda.
help people understand the system, sure.
Yeah, you know, that might be wise, especially with the planning board coming up.
Okay,
Thank you.
great.
All right, we're going to go to, the next hearing is for an NOI on 10 Populatic. However, it is the chair's understanding that the applicant has requested a continuance to February 3rd meeting at 7:01. So with that said, I will take a motion to continue the NOI for 10 Populatic to February 3rd at 7:01, please.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Milne, I'll give you a motion to continue the NOI for 10 Populatic Street to February 3rd, 7:01.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I second that.
Thank you very much. Let's take a vote on continuance. Commissioner Gallagher, do you vote to continue?
Pat Gallagher, I vote to continue.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson, do you vote to continue?
Commissioner Johnson votes to continue.
Thank you. Commissioner Milne, do you vote to continue?
Jeff Milne, I vote to continue.
Thank you. And Commissioner Mazzucchelli, do you vote to continue?
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I vote to continue.
Thank you. This is Commissioner and Chair Batchelor. I also vote to continue. The NOI for 10 Populatic is continued until February 3rd at 7:01 PM. Thank you. That concludes the public hearings for this evening. We do have one business issue left to attend to, and that is, Commissioners, that would be the minutes from the January 6th meeting at 2022. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as stated. Please.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Milne, I'll give you a motion to approve the minutes from January 6, 2022, as stated.
Thank you. Commissioner Mazzucchelli, would you give me a second on that?
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I second.
Thank you. Let's take a vote to approve. Commissioner Gallagher, do you approve of the minutes?
Pat Gallagher, I vote to approve.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Johnson, do you approve of the minutes?
Commissioner Johnson votes to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Milne, you vote to approve?
Jeff Milne, I vote to approve.
Thank you. Commissioner Mazzucchelli, do you vote to approve?
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I vote to approve.
Thank you. This is Chair and Commissioner Batchelor. I vote to approve the minutes from the January 6th meeting of 2022. So approved, unanimous. All right, that concludes this evening. For those that did not hear my announcement before the meeting took place tonight, we do have a candidate that appears to be going to vote to town council on the, I believe it's the 2nd of February, by the name of, let me get this, Michael R. Ryan. I have spoken with this gentleman. I actually have a conference call with him next Monday to go through some issues and training. He will be welcome. He's got good background, project manager for Department of Air Force, town resident, so all is good. Does anybody have anything they want to take up? Any commissioners?
I don't have
Any
anything.
issues?
Nope.
I will therefore take a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Millen will give you a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Andrew Mazzucchelli, I second.
Gallagher, you want to adjourn?
Vote to close.
Johnson, you want to say goodnight?
Yes, votes to close.
Do you vote to close? Milne,
I vote to close.
Mazzucchelli,
I vote to close.
Bachelor, we're closed.
Have a good night, guys.
Good night.
Take it easy, guys.
Good night, all.
Recording
Be well.
stopped.
Be well, gentlemen.